In the category of things we watch so you don't have to, Donald Trump has spent most of the day raging, absolutely raging on social media. And a focus of his ire today is New York Attorney General Letitia James. It is because next month, on October 2nd, Donald Trump will go on trial in the civil lawsuit brought against him, his family, and his business by Attorney General James. She was to bar them from running the company and is seeking a $250 million fine for allegedly inflating the value of the company's assets by as much as $2.2 billion a year. AG James is requesting a summary judgment in the case based on what she calls, quote, the mountain of undisputed evidence in the case. Meanwhile, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have some questions of their own about another source of revenue and extreme wealth in the Trump family. Ranking member Jamie Raskin is asking the Republican chairman, James Comer, who seems very concerned about the business dealings of children of presidents, especially the current president's son, who's never worked for the United States government. He's asked him to subpoena the investment firm run by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner received a staggering $2 billion, with a B, dollar investment from Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries after he quit the Trump White House. Joining our coverage of this, Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee and of the House Homeland Security Committee. Tim O'Brien is with us as well. Congressman, I start with you. You've got an incredible body of news reporting. I think the New York Times has reported on the fact that Jared Kushner got so much more than Steve Mnuchin when Jared Kushner did not have as successful of a record in the business arena as Steve Mnuchin. You've also got former Trump insiders, people like his final chief, or not final, but I guess his second chief of staff, John Kelly, saying that even inside the White House, there were questions about what Jared Kushner was doing some of the time. So tell me about this effort at this point to dig into the ex-president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner's business dealings.
Absolutely. Well, thanks. I mean, look, I think it's very clear. You have Jared Kushner, who worked on Middle East policy, who was the lead person in the Trump White House when it came to working within the Middle East and Saudi Arabia. And a few months after office and a few months after he leaves the White House, he's receiving $2 billion plus from the Saudi government. So if there isn't smoke there, I don't know what else could be worse. I mean, we're looking at a situation here where the Oversight Committee is really serious about what the Kushners did, how they received the $2 billion plus, what he actually did to receive that money. And so the letter and our effort, led by Chair Raskin on our end, is to ensure that we get the facts on what happened. We want to subpoena the documents. We want to ensure and see how did Kushner receive so much money right after he left, and what did he do to actually get those services. And so, well, we think this is a pretty serious issue. I think that Comer himself has said that he thinks it may have crossed the ethical line. And so our request is pretty simple. Let's see the documents, let's subpoena the documents, and let's find out why the Saudi Arabian government paid the Kushners $2 billion after leaving the White House.
You know, I went down to the Trump White House exactly one time, but it was the day that Jared Kushner was briefing the press about Donald Trump's first foreign trip. And I ran into him in a hallway, and he was beaming about the strategy of taking Donald Trump to Saudi Arabia first. He was also known to have text using WhatsApp and other encrypted messaging systems with Middle Eastern leaders for the duration of the presidency. Will you seek to subpoena those WhatsApp messages and really understand the entirety of the relationship between Kushner and the leaders he communicated with directly?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, he was probably beaming, thinking about all the money he was going to make and grift off the American people. And all the documents that are available to us, we want to be able to get access to. You know, it's pretty interesting that the House Republican majority, especially the Oversight Committee, are obsessed with a private citizen, Hunter Biden, and his business dealings, yet are unwilling to focus the seriousness of this issue on someone that actually worked inside the White House.
Yeah. Do you have any interest from your Senate colleagues, who obviously are in the majority over there, to run investigations in any of their oversight committees?
Yeah, I mean, those discussions are happening. I think obviously Jamie Raskin is engaged in those conversations. So is our committee. We think there is, and we've heard some of the senators already kind of share some of their concerns. But we're really concerned on the House side, and we're really concerned on the Oversight Committee. And this is just a pattern of the way the Kushners have financially benefited from their jobs inside the White House, and they continue to attack the president's family, who have not worked a job in the White House, who have not been paid by the White House, yet they can't and will not hold accountable the Kushners, who clearly have some huge scheme and are enriching themselves by billions of dollars from Middle East governments.
You know, Tim O'Brien, the ex-president does such a volume business of scandal that I feel like it was sometimes hard for the press and Democrats and ethical people to look in any one place for long. But Jared Kushner was doing what Jared Kushner was doing the whole time. Are you surprised that it didn't get attention before this?
Well, I do think, I think we talked about it a couple of years ago, Nicole, about Kushner specifically and the Saudi investment. It's, you know, I think the issue with Jared Kushner is that he is so ignorant and unschooled that people to some degree expected him to be harmless. And the reality was he was in a White House that was making policy, particularly foreign policy. And I think he had his own eyes set on what he was going to do when he left the White House. Jared Kushner, like Donald Trump, his professional life and most of his life overall was helped along by his father's wealth. He has never really achieved very much on his own. And then suddenly he leaves the White House, a man with absolutely no hardball investment experience. When people invest $1 billion like they did with Steve Mnuchin, or $2 billion like they did with Jared Kushner, they expect to see a track record because they want a return on their money. Jared Kushner is not somebody any well-heeled, savvy investor is going to give that kind of money to unless they think there's other things to be gained from outside of an investment return. They already knew from his time in the White House that the Trump White House had overridden Congress's opposition to a Saudi arms deal. The Trump White House soft-pedaled pressing the Saudis on Jamal Khashoggi's murder. So there were clearly possible quid pro quos while he was in the White House. He's now, after leaving the White House, he gets this windfall of investment money, I think because the Saudis were placing their bets on the possibility that Donald Trump might come into the White House again, and they'd have an easy mark in Jared Kushner. I think there's a money trail that can be followed there. As you've asked, there's possibly a communications trail. I think it should cloud anything Kushner does for the campaign, Trump's campaign. The possibility that Jared Kushner will be in the White House again, this has to weigh heavily on that, because it's a deep national security problem, on top of being an ethical quagmire. And as Congressman Garcia mentioned, it's more than passing strange that the GOP is intent on tarring Hunter Biden with some of these allegations when the proof, or at least the evidence, of stuff that's much more problematic with Jared Kushner hasn't been equally probed.
Congressman, really quick last question. Do you plan to call Rex Tillerson, who was rather famously and publicly humiliated by Jared Kushner pulling the rug out from under him when he was the country's Secretary of State?
We'd love to. I mean, absolutely. I think that there's a lot there, and there's definitely a history of not just Jared Kushner, but the family, including Ivanka, including Donald Trump, in benefiting from foreign investments and foreign intervention. So it is an ethical issue, but also a national security issue. I completely agree, and we'd love to hear from him.